a.m. on Tuesday, February 11th, 2025. I call the Economic Development Authority meeting to order. The first item is a roll call. We have 5 members present, which is a quorum. Item 2.1 is the EDA January 14th, 2025 minutes.
I didn't see any issues with that. Unless anybody has any questions, I would make a motion to accept the minutes for January 14th, 2025.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3.1, administrative activities for January 2025.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners and President Mark Graff. You have the report in your packet. I just have a couple items to highlight. Note under the Section 8 report, the application for vouchers for the tenants at Linderhof Park Apartments has been approved. At the time of this report, we were waiting further instruction. I have since then received an email from my rep at the HUD field office in Minneapolis. There is a document that we need to sign and send back, but I think I'm going to bring that to the board next month for formal approval. So you'll be seeing that next month. And then just one other item under the Home Buyer Assistance Loan Program, one loan closed in the amount of $10,000. That applicant had actually applied in 2024 and their loan just closed. So it doesn't affect, we still have $50,000 available this year for applications. Any other questions? Otherwise, that's the end of the staff report.
If there's no questions, I'll make a motion to approve the administrative activities report for January of 2025.
That we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4.1, extend the HAP contract with Emerson Union Apartments.
I have a question about that. It's been previously 5 years. Why are we going to 10?
So, yeah, this item was probably prior to most of you being on the board. When the developer was going to develop the old middle school into housing, they submitted an application for low-income housing tax credits, and that's a very competitive program, and you want to get as many points as you can. So they had approached us to ask if we would convert 4 of our housing choice vouchers into project-based vouchers for their project. So those vouchers were converted and they stay with the building. The tenants that go into those 4 apartments that have these project-based vouchers come off a long-term homeless list. So it is getting people that have battled homelessness. I believe it's for at least 18 months. They're eligible to get into one of these apartments. So that was done for an initial 5-year term, and that's expiring. The reason they're asking for a 10-year extension is because that coincides with the end of their tax credit term. So they brought this to us and asked us to extend it for another 10 years. I do recommend this. The program's been successful. We've seen people that have been battling homelessness get into these apartments, get stable housing, get full-time employment, and move on and be successful. And then the apartment opens up for someone else to come off that homeless list and get housed. And so it's a good program. It keeps the vouchers in New Ulm. I support it. I have no problem with the request to extend for 10 years. I would extend for 20 if they had asked.
Okay.
I'd make motion to authorize the executive director to sign contract with Emerson Union Apartments effective March 1, 2025 for a 10-year term.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 5.1, EDA February 11th, 2025 claims list.
The only thing I saw in there was it plumbing? For service call, no. Yeah, for service calls. Was that typical for Gog Sheet Metal?
There are months we have quite a few invoices with Gog Sheet Metal. They are the main person we call for plumbing and HVAC issues at our public housing properties. So, yeah, I would say that's pretty typical.
Sounds good.
It's a short claims list this month, so I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the EDA February 11th, 2025 claims list.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6.1, Get It Ready Loan Program changes.
All right. As you recall, this item was brought up for renewal funds at our last meeting, and the item was tabled. We've since held a work session to discuss the program further, and we're bringing back the changes that you had recommended. So the change that we're making is for those who apply for this program that are over age 65. We will allow 3 years, up to 3 years of deferred payments. If they still own their home after the 3 years, then they will be required to start making monthly payments with interest. So that is the only change, and I guess it's up for you now to vote.
The only question I had was those first 3 years interest is not accumulating on that
Correct.
balance, correct? Okay. And I would make a motion to approve these changes to the Get It Ready loan program.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just wanted to clarify that those who currently have a loan already are grandfathered in. Under the old rules, this would only apply to new applicants going forward.
I like the additions that we made, and I think that will make the program work better and work the way it was intended. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6.2, Get It Ready Single Family Rehab Program.
All right, and then we're just bringing this back for a vote now that we've had the discussion and made the program changes. So to bring the program back to $120,000 in available funding, we would need to allocate an additional $96,981.17.
I'll make a motion to allocate the 2020 funds in the amount of $96,981.17 for the Get It Ready Single Rehab Loan Program.
Second?
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6.3, Multifamily Rental Rehab Program.
Right, this item was also tabled last month, and after the work session and discussion, there were no changes made to the program, so we're just bringing the funding renewal back for a vote. We would need an additional $65,857.45 to bring the available funding back to $150,000 for loans in 2025. There were 2 loans in this program last year, both in the amount of $50,000.
I'll make a motion to allocate 2025 funds in the amount of $65,857.45 for the multifamily rental rehab loan program.
And I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6.4, Approve Site Plan for North Broadway Lots.
This is Chris's item.
President and Commissioners, before you, you have the proposed site plan for the Broadway lots. The title company is requesting that we approve the site plan, subject to minor changes. Again, it hasn't changed from when you approved the sale back in last year. Again, they're looking at 8 to 9 apartments and retail space on the bottom.
Chris, my only question with that is it looks like it's a 3-story. So would there only be one level of apartments? Because I noticed there were 8 apartments, or would it be 2 levels and
2 levels.
16 units then?
Yeah. No, so it's 8 to 9 units.
Okay.
So they'll have 1 unit on the ground floor and then the other two floors.
I thought that was retail space.
Okay.
All except one.
Yeah, that one on the plan, it says floors 2 and 3. It was kind of small, but I saw it, yeah.
Oh, okay. Got it. Because I'm thinking it looks like there's 16 units, right? But you're saying there's only 8?
Last I heard it was 8, but if it's showing 2 and 3, then
It says second and third floor plan each with 8 units.
Yeah,
So
so
I
they're
just was
looking-
I was just was curious.
So then it's going to be an odd number because they need 1 floor. They need 1 apartment on the ground floor because they don't have enough room to put an elevator in. So that'll be their handicap accessible unit on the ground floor.
Okay, I did notice there was no elevator as well. All right. I have no problem making a motion to approve the site plan for the North Broadway lots.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6.5, fiscal year 2025, 5-year plan.
All right, Commissioners and President Markgraf, every year we're required to come up with an annual plan for our housing programs, and every 5 years we have to do a 5-year plan. So this is a year that it's a 5-year plan that's due. The 5-year plan is a comprehensive guide to the Public Housing Agency policies, programs, operations, and strategies for meeting our local housing needs and its goals for the 5-year period. This is the beginning of the 6th 5-year plan cycle for our agency. This has been in place implemented by HUD in 2000 as a result of the 1998 Quality Housing and Work Responsibility Act legislation. The law is intended to revitalize and improve public housing and Section 8 housing choice voucher programs. Staff is currently reviewing program policies and will conduct resident advisory board meetings with program participants during the month of March to gather input on the 5-year plan. In March, we'll present to you a draft of the 5-year plan, including feedback received from the resident advisory board meetings. And then in April, we'll bring the final plan to you for approval. Prior to approval, we do need to hold a public hearing on the plan. So today, we just need to schedule the public hearing so that we can publish that in the newspaper according to our required 45-day public notice. So that would be published later this month. So we're asking to schedule the public hearing for adoption of the 5-year plan for 8:00 a.m. Tuesday, April 8th.
I would make a motion to approve the scheduling for the approval of the fiscal year 2025 5-year plan and schedule a public hearing on adoption of the plan for 8 a.m. Tuesday, April 8th, 2025.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6.6, strategic plan request for proposals.
This is you again, Chris.
President, Commissioners, this is just a request to send out the RFP for the strategic plan. We've been talking about this for about 2 years, and now that the city's strategic plan is done, we can focus on the EDA strategic plan, incorporating our comprehensive plan, the city's strategic plan, and then really dive in and interview you as commissioners to see the direction that the EDA wants to go in with our programs and services.
Well, we certainly talked about the need to do this and the desire to do this. So I'll go ahead and offer a motion to approve the request for proposal and authorize the executive director to distribute, accept, and review proposals for consulting services to prepare the EDA's strategic plan.
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I just have a question. On the request for proposals, is there a dollar amount attached, or does that come later?
We'll see what the proposals come in at. I would like to throw, maybe $100,000 in there, but when you put a dollar amount in there, it's absolutely going to come in at that dollar amount. So we'll see what it comes back based on the scope we put out.
Okay, thank you.
I'm excited to take this next step forward. I love strategic planning. I'm one of those weird people that enjoys that. We do have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7.1, in other business, amendment to purchase agreement for the sale of properties at 318, 320, and 326 North Broadway.
This is the last item we potentially need to close on the lots over on Broadway. There is a small change to the purchase agreement. They're switching the holding company from LMG Properties to SLD Properties. So with that change, if you approve that change, then we should be able to close on the property sooner rather than later.
And they did, at the 9th hour, also request to extend the closing date to July 31st, 2025, but we are hoping
To close well before
that
that.
that we'll just be able to close soon.
You clarify what the purpose of the change was in the ownership?
I'm assuming just business purposes. The holding company is still the same entity. They're just changing the name.
And we feel pretty good about this closing before July 31st. I mean, I feel like that is another long extension on something that should have been really cut and dry here for some time.
Oh, trust me, I know.
Okay. All right. I just don't want to be in a situation where we feel like we're going to get stuck with this property. Yeah.
Was there a reason for the extension?
There
Or
were a
good
lot of
reason for the
issues. There were a lot of issues that could have been resolved early on that their legal counsel just kind of drug out, and then the survey. We were ready to close back in September, October, but they needed to get a survey done, and they didn't get it till the end of December. And then once the title company got the survey, they had additional questions. That we've been answering, and this is kind of the final piece. So I would say sometime between now and July, but sooner rather than later, we'll be closing.
All right. If there's no further questions, then I'll make a motion that we amend,
7.1.
Yeah, the executive director to, wait. Agreement of the sale of the property. What, were we just changing the name? Sorry.
Yes.
Authorize the director to sign the amendment to purchase agreement to sale of the property.
Mhm.
I guess I don't see where it says to change the name.
Well,
You're
it's in the
approving the
amendment.
amendment to the purchase agreement, which is the,
Okay, so authorize the executive director to authorize the amendment to the purchase agreement of the property of 318, 320, and 326 North Broadway.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 7.2, Newbrick 2025 funding request.
Good morning, President and Commissioners. I'm Steve Brown, CEO of Newbrick, and we asked for a request for funding and submitted all of the documentation, and we're hoping that you would continue funding Newbrick for our community. Any questions I can answer for you?
Yes, I do have a question. Do you have a plan in what you're going to do with the money that we've traditionally given Newbrick?
Yes. Excuse me. I had a little cough. We have a lot of projects that are in the works right now, including a tiny home project that we're looking to acquire land and build housing for workforce housing. Money will be used partially for that. We also have a program to work on an incubator with building a basically robotics automation education program and a facility to help educate workforce in the community. In addition, we're working on working with a small project that hopefully with 3M on a land grant from them with building warehousing space and small housing facility for them, and also some daycare center possibility. And also we are continuing to fund Project Lead the Way as funding requests come in. And we're working with other community members to provide consulting and business consulting services to help them with their businesses in New Ulm. So.
I have a few questions about the tiny homes, which is just an intriguing concept to me. The timeline that you presented in the documents that you gave us did not account for time to get grants. And because it does look like that to actually cash flow, you're going to rely heavily on grants and other things. What kind of timeline do you see for getting that initial money to help assist with that?
Well, I think we have funding to start. I mean, we have funding for that we have money that we've already raised that we can use for land acquisition and for building the prototype housing. And hopefully once we do that, working through the city would actually be the one that would have to apply for the grants for the housing, and then be able to help us with that additional funding. But at this point, we'll be using our existing funding to get going, and we've approved that in our board.
Okay. What percent of your time do you think is going to be taking up with building tiny homes?
Fair bit.
It's a big
but not all of
project.
it. We also have the CTE project we're working on with them to try to move the CTE towards more of a community facility. But there's a lot of work to be done there, so we'll be working on that as well.
Okay. How do you see AI fitting in with all that you're doing?
Well, I use AI a lot to look at costing and budgeting and all kinds of anything that we can use it for. It's very valuable. So, but I integrate it all the time with what I do. So.
Other questions for Newbrick?
Well, that contract is pretty lengthy. And then it just kind of looked like we're committing to $50,000 at this point, and that's it. Correct?
Correct.
It kind of looked like on the wording to me seemed a little confusing as far as payments must be made in a timely manner kind of thing. And I'm like, what payments? We traditionally, are we giving in quarterly increments the 50,000?
Monthly.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a standard flat monthly fee.
Okay.
I just
And-
want to make, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and the idea of the tiny homes is, of course, multi-purpose, helping fill the housing shortage and get you self-sustaining.
Yes.
That's what I understand.
I just wanted to make a comment that back maybe within this last year in New Ulm Partnership, we talked about the concept was introduced for tiny homes, and we looked at it in many different ways, and it wasn't until more recently that Newbrick took the responsibility to move forward with it, and we talk about housing as an issue, and I think this is one of multiple responses and ways that we can address the housing in New Ulm. So I applaud Newbrick for picking it up and moving it forward.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Newbrick?
I don't have necessarily questions so much as comments, given I've been attending the Newbrick meetings both prior to the new director and with a new director. So just thought it might be valuable in decision-making to share some of the differences that I am seeing. And in attending the meetings, I think the conversation and the direction is drastically different. I love the tiny homes concept, but I love any out-of-the-box thinking. And I do see that as a way for Newbrick to become self-sustaining, and the conversation surrounding some of the work Steve's doing with other businesses that aren't necessarily under his scope, but he's approached, so he helps, has also been, I think, a really positive thing. There's been some really good relationship building happening that really needed to happen with someone new coming on. Prior to Newbrick hiring Steve, I also was able to review his resume. I don't know if anyone else is familiar with that or has seen it, but it is quite impressive. So I think if there is someone who can bring some of these things to fruition, that they're in a really good position to do that, as well as repair some of the relationships that may have been strained previously. I realize that this was supposed to be a 3-year thing and have a plan, and that's absolutely valid. I would hate to see us drop something or cut ties when we finally maybe have a chance at doing some really good things in collaboration with Newbrick. That right now our best chance at a return on investment is with this group of people and some of the ideas that they have, and there's a lot of potential for some positive partnering and collaboration amongst each other. So that's just kind of what I have gathered and experienced in meetings, both prior to and with their current director.
I am excited to see where new leadership will take Newbrick and us. EDA, our goal is to promote economic development, and I think this is definitely a way to go that route. And I appreciate more transparency, so I like where things are going right now. So I'd like to keep that going, and I'm okay with funding the $50,000.
There was just one thought that Michelle had brought up previously, not that any decisions have to be made here this morning, but I thought that would be worth sharing, was in terms of the incubator project, if there would be any willingness to expand that to different types of businesses too. I know you guys have your specialty, but if someone wanted to come in and said, I want to, open a retail space or a restaurant, would there be any potential for that to be incorporated into a business incubator? So just something to think about, especially given there's been a decent amount of people that have approached you for some advice on that area as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Open to anything, for sure.
I don't have a lot of comments other than I was very unhappy with the prior direction of New Brick, and we don't have to say a lot about that. But I do see definitely some potential here and agree with my fellow commissioners that I certainly hope that this small home project is a way of creating self-sustainability. Obviously, there's a lot of irons in the fire right now for New Brick, but one of the things that is very important, at least to me as a commissioner, is to know that there is a path to sustainability and what that looks like that doesn't revolve around received grants, because that is not that's not a path to sustainability for any organization. But I'm fine and in support of moving forward as well.
I do like the direction that I see and everything that you have given us, and everything that you want to do is definitely something that's needed in the community, and I applaud you for tiny homes. I just love. However, last year when New Brick came to us, we said this is the last year that we're going to fund, and I love the direction. I was born in Missouri, so part of me just has to say, show me. Show me that this is something worth funding and that we will have what you say will be done, because that hasn't been the case for 3 years now. And we have a new director, and I think that's great. I think you'll do great things, but part of me is still hesitant are things going to get done just because they haven't been in the past?
That's my job.
Yes.
That's my plan. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think it could get done.
You've named quite a few things which all certainly have merit. But do you have in New Brick's mind right now, is there somewhat of a priority, and where do you want to start, and where do you maybe second and third and fourth down the line? Have you done any of that?
I'm doing a lot of it all at the same time, but right now they're definitely focusing on trying to get ready for summer to be able to build our first project, and then at the same time working through with the CTE, and the incubator will be in the latter part of the year, and that works better with our partners' time frame as well. So right now, that our primary focuses are going to be with the CTE and with the tiny homes.
I heard a comment made about, the last year of funding. I think we have to be careful in declaring some kind of separation of financial funding to an organization that is here to extend EDA opportunities in the city. And maybe going forward, it's not a blanket 50,000, but maybe it's dollars to support a particular project within the whole. So for us to go on record to say this is the last year, I think we need to keep an open mind about the benefits of New Brick. They're able to do things that our New Brick and our Economic Development Authority within our own organization, the City of New Ulm, isn't able to do. And so if we can work in a complementary way to move economic development forward, I think that's what we're all about.
If there's no other comments or questions, it sounds like there's a general agreement. So I'll just offer the motion to consider approving New Ulm Business Resource and Innovation Center 2025 funding request in the amount of $50,000 and authorize the executive director to execute the contract.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 8.1, Economic Development Activity Report.
I'll just run through this quickly. Last month, the New Ulm Partnership discussed potentially having a holiday light display somewhere in town, similar to what other communities have been doing. The thought was to partner with some of our service organizations out there to potentially make that happen. We'll see where that conversation goes. The child care team is currently planning the 2025 appreciation and training event. As I had mentioned previously, this event is being moved from the fall to the spring, so we're looking to host that event in April this year. Under the commercial property rehab loan program, one application was received, working through that. All 5 small business grants have been awarded for the year. I can tell you the business owners were extremely appreciative of that funding. I'm already getting inquiries for people that want to apply for the next round, and I'm just trying to be cautious and not promising that it will still be around, that hasn't been decided yet, but that they should, keep watching for that later this year when those conversations come up again. Otherwise, the biggest thing right now is city and PUC staff are working with a pretty good lead for a business that wants to expand into New Ulm, and their utility needs are pretty significant, so PUC is doing some analysis right now of their substations to determine where they would be able to support this type of business in town, and then the conversations will move forward from there. That is all I had to highlight. So,
Okay, I'll make a motion to accept the Economic Development Activity Report for January 2025 activities.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. There being no further agenda items, this meeting is adjourned.